And we're all here. Everybody's here. We're all accounted for.
Present.
I'd like to welcome back Brian Sedgley to the podcast, everyone.
I was here last week.
Yeah, he was here last week. Yeah.
Yeah. I was COVID free last week.
Oh, that's right.
True.
I forgot about that.
True. He's plague free. The
Has,
house is clear.
Oh, yeah.
Has the fall weather hit you guys yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
fell
awesome.
this.
Dude, it's
I
been
fell
cold,
today
man.
at work.
Yeah.
What, did you have your little Life Me button thing around your necklace?
I
What was that
did.
thing called?
Help!
Life
I've
Alert?
fallen and I can't get up.
I did. Help! I fallen. I can't get
Stuck
up.
to the ground like a peanut butter cup.
Yeah.
Life alert.
Life Alert. Yeah, Life Alert.
That's it. Life alert.
This episode is sponsored by Life Alert.
Speaking of sponsors,
Ooh.
should I talk about the giveaway?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Get that knocked out. This month we are doing a giveaway with good old TSO products. They will be giving away a GRS 16PE guide rail square for one lucky winner. Open to all 50 states. And to enter, all you need to do is go to greensuiterspodcast.com and fill out the entry form. Good luck, everyone. Good
Yeah, 'cause
luck.
Because I've already filled out 50 of those suckers.
Hey,
Yeah.
last month for the apron giveaway, we had 153 entries. That's the highest number we've ever had as far as I can
Nice.
remember.
I stopped at 140.
So people really wanted that. They really wanted
custom
that apron.
leather apron
That's right.
from Leather by Michelle.
I have the GRS 16, and I'm telling you, man, with that sucker and a guide rail, you really don't need a track saw or a table saw.
Yeah, oh, you
Like,
kind of do, Ben. You kind of do need a
you
track
need the track
with,
saw, maybe
with
not
a
a
guide
table
rail
saw.
square
Yeah,
and a guide rail.
it is if you're breaking down sheets of goods and you are making huge rips and crosscuts and you need a good 90-degree reference, GRS is a great addition to your track saw. When I rip my plywood in the parking lot of wherever it is that I buy it, I rip everything to project dimensions in the parking lot. Like that's how
Wow.
accurate that plus the guide rail is.
And if you don't have a track saw and you win the guide rail
Then
square,
you have a reason to buy a
Then-
track saw now.
now you buy a track saw because you have the square.
Make sure you use the links in our YouTube videos to do that.
Or you can just hang the tools on your back wall and never use them like I
It's
do.
a showroom.
And then,
It's a showroom.
yeah, it's just a showroom.
It's just a showroom.
Oh, fancy, expensive tool? Yeah, I got it. It's right here. Don't ever use it though.
What brand is that?
What, behind me?
Yeah.
Ryobi.
Ryobi.
Oh, nice. God.
Yeah. I still like the idea of a roll down backdrop
it's-
and it's just all Ryobi.
Sedge, I don't know.
People-
I don't know if you know, but it's like the premium woodworking tools. So
Oh, right, Obi. Yep, I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
got a 30-foot guarantee.
Yeah.
A 30-30. 30 minutes of 30 feet out the goddamn door.
whoa.
Oh,
Let's not take it personal, okay?
No,
Jeez.
today's sponsor is
No, just
definitely
kidding.
not Ryobi.
Jason, what have you been up to over the last 7 days?
My
Actually,
table is
it's been 9 days since we recorded.
yeah, because I think last week was Tuesday. My table's on hold, just temporarily. But I did get confirmation the other day that the base is on the way. So I might have that next week, and I hope to actually have the table completely done next week. But I won't share all the details because by the time this comes out, this product should be released. But in the event that it gets pushed with respect to the company, I will not mention it yet. But I have been working very, very hard to create a video for a company for the launch of a new product. So I've done similar stuff kind of like this in the past, making videos for another company, that is. But this is a little bit different, and I'm really enjoying this process. But I've been very busy doing that. Like, that's taken all of my time for the
Does
past few days.
does Pornhub usually sponsor woodworking channels though?
Yeah.
They do. They're very into wood, as a matter of fact.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Huh. You've been working digitally with Trojan?
Or wait, no, I thought it was wood was
Yeah.
into them.
Well, also that. Yeah. But yeah, that's about it. And then, man, I'll tell you what. Ever since we've had Max, I have spent so much more time with Leo,
Yeah.
which I expected to happen. But I bring that up because I'm really starting to get into the rhythm of my new schedule, right? Which is, at home during the day, able to do work, and then dedicate all my time on the weekends and the evenings to them. So it's really nice. I'm still working out the kinks a little bit, trying to be a little bit more productive. But going into next year, I think it's going to be great. So I've got to spend a lot of time with Leo, and it's been pretty awesome. So there was one other thing now that I wanted to mention. I can't remember what it is. It couldn't have been that important. Sedge?
Back to you.
Not much. I'm gonna finish up my wall of sustainers. I just ripped today some more plywood. I thought I had enough cabinets, but I'm gonna build another 4. So I think that's gonna total, I think, 20 cabinets that I've built out across the doors, the double door that I blocked off. And hey, when should this is episode 58. When should it air?
Not this coming
in
weekend, but
a
next weekend.
week.
Okay, so I'll still be here in the States. Marianne and I, the other thing I've been doing is finally, we went to our travel agent. We got all our paperwork, all our itineraries and backpacks for Ireland, and we're really stoked, man. Everything is taken care of. They even got tickets for our tours of Guinness already.
It's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's what I've been up to. I've been testing a lot of prototype tools at Festool during the day, going over. I've been doing some training online and stuff, and just in the shop a lot, organizing the snot out of that big router bit cabinet I have, or old router bit cabinet I have. It's where all my knickknacks and all my fasteners are. I'm going through all of that, downsize. I just got an order in from maybe you guys and maybe anybody listening goes through this. You go and get a screw or whatever, and it's a Phillips head, and you get like 100 left over, so you keep them, and then you get some square drive screws, and you get that, and then you get some posi drive screws, and then you have some Torx screws.
Yeah.
So you go to grab a screw, right? And you're like, oh, shnikey, I got to go find a damn tip, and nothing's the same. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of streamlining everything and going straight to Torx and getting rid of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a brand I really like of screws called Quick Screws that I use back in Fort Lauderdale. And I was using them in the training center. I bought I think 10,000 screws a few years ago for cabinetry at Festool. And I bought them Phillips, because I thought everybody in training would like the Phillips. Phillips came out. That's what people were used to. So I said, to hell with that. I just bought a boatload of, I put in an order with them, and I just did them all Torx. And man, they make the best damn screw. They really do. The self-tapping and the nibs and stuff. So, and by the way, using a Torx is, I think, a superior drive.
Yeah, I've yet to strip one out.
Yeah. So I think I was thinking about this, and as I'm going through the process, I'm thinking, I think that'll make a pretty cool video. So I'm going to do a video, I think, this weekend coming up for Sedge Tool on it. And just because I know it's frustrating, you get like, I need a 2-inch screw, and that damn one square drive, and you build something, and you get 1.5-inch screws that are Phillips, and then the other ones that like to put the cabinets together are Torx, and it's just like, damn, it's just confusing. So that's what I've been up to. Ben, what have you been up to?
I did something that I haven't done since my graduation trip. I went camping yesterday, or
Ugh,
2 days ago. I
gross.
drove 200 miles southwest, almost to the Tennessee-Virginia border, to Mount Rogers. It's the highest peak in Virginia. And yeah, I just went camping. I just
By
miss it.
yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like my favorite thing to do in the entire world is to go
You didn't
camping
get
by
enough.
myself.
You didn't get enough camping in the army?
It's what I did when I was a kid, man. I don't know. I like doing it. The weather's finally cool down. I'm not gonna sweat my knickers off in a tent. So I went riding all day Monday and then coming back on Tuesday. Yeah.
So you just went out for one night?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had to with like kid schedules and stuff.
Oh.
Hmm.
Did
It was fun
you
though.
meditate?
I did.
I did.
did. I did.
Yeah.
I also
Were you
got
able to
something.
get good cell service where you were?
No, absolutely no cell service, which was great.
Hmm.
I didn't have any distractions or anything.
Hmm.
Look what I picked up.
Nice.
I got it on sale. For
Nice.
those that are listening, it's just a wireless microphone set.
The DJI.
Yeah.
I will
Man, dude,
begrudgingly say that was a good recommendation from Patrick.
these magnets are freaking strong.
Dope.
So strong. I put it on my refrigerator earlier today just to like test it out, and I struggled to get it off. Like it was on
Hey,
there.
is that I got the not the Rogue, what is it? The Roadie.
Rode.
Rode. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rode.
That's a good system, isn't it?
Yeah, those are good too.
It is. Yeah. I think Rode, I want to say DJI was the first. Rode came out with theirs that were kind of modeled off that, but I have the Rode as well, but I just have the single channel Rode. And then Rode came out with a dual channel, I guess in response to DJI or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But they're both great. Yeah.
That's what I really like about these is you can use both mics at the same time, and so I can slap one of these in my helmet to record like whatever it is that I'm saying, but I can also record like motorcycle sounds with it.
Oh, cool.
And you can do like backup audio where it'll save the audio to the device. You can use a lav mic with it, so you can clip it out of the way.
The case charges the receivers and the transmitter, which I really like.
Sound like AirPods.
Yeah, just like that. But I've been getting rid of buying new camera equipment, getting rid of old camera, not old, but just getting rid of camera equipment that I just don't want anymore. So just kind of updating my arsenal, so to say. But other than that, man, just trying to enjoy the last bit of motorcycle riding weather that I can. It's gonna close in very soon. I think next week we're gonna be in the 30s.
Wow.
For a few days. And I mean, I have the gear to ride in cold weather, but at some point it becomes not safe because of the tires and the road and stuff. So yeah, I'm just trying to squeeze it in as much as I can. It's been about
That's what she
said.
Oh my, he said. That's what he says.
Oh, hey, Ben, before I forget, I did want to mention to you, I spoke to my sergeant major yesterday, and he had mentioned he was listening. Yeah, the Milwaukee weenie. He was listening to a couple podcasts ago, maybe the last episode, anyways, when you were talking again about the pressure buildup of the water and the French drain and all that other stuff and the issues that you're having. Well, he actually told me yesterday that he went through the exact same problem, went through doing the exact same things that you're doing, and like had a whole thing that had to be done about it. And he was like, tell Ben, give him my number. If he wants to call and talk to me about it, I can. He's like, as he was naming those things off, he's like, I did all of those things, exact same scenario. He's like, I'd be glad to talk to him about it. So I wanted to mention that to you.
Did he ever get it? Did he ever get it resolved, or?
He did.
Okay.
And it's I'll let him explain it, but
Is it ungodly expensive?
it's expensive, but this was years ago. So I can imagine it's quite a bit more expensive now. One of the benefits he said that you would have is that your basement is unfinished, as his was finished.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But what they had to do for it was like, oh my gosh, you know. So we won't talk about it on here, but he definitely said, he was like, give him my number if he wants to talk about it. I'd be glad to tell him. He's like, because I'm telling you, I went through the exact same thing.
Well, I bought some hydrophobic concrete, and not that I think that it's really going to fix the issue, but I know where the water comes through at the slab. And so I at this point I'm just trying anything I can. There are small gaps between the slab and the wall. And so I'm just going to try to fill that with hydrophobic concrete. Again, do I think that that's going to hold up against water pressure? Probably not. But at least I can say, well, I mean, at least I threw some concrete down in there to try to stop the water from coming through there, you know. But we'll see. We'll see if it holds up. The crappy thing is that I can't really test anything out until there's a really heavy rain. Like
Yep.
it has to, like 2 or 3 days is what I need to know if something's working or
To
not.
test it.
That's because that's when enough of that water pressure comes down, it seeps in. You know, if it's just like raining for half a day, it's going to run off from the topsoil.
Yep.
But yes, I would love to get his phone number and give him a call.
Yeah.
See what
Cool.
he's gonna say. All right, gentlemen, are we ready to get into tonight's topic?
I am.
All right.
Yes.
I think this is a good one. This is one that we have not talked about before. And it's in the spirit of the spookiness of
Ooh.
October, of Halloween.
Ooh.
And so tonight, I want us to
This is Halloween. Halloween. Oh.
Halloweeny.
I want us to talk about our most scariest moments in the shop.
Ooh.
Whether that's something that happened to us, happened to other people, but just, you know, for whatever reason, we had a holy crap moment in the shop. And I can go first. I don't know if any one of you want to go first.
Fine.
Go, Ben.
All right. So 2014,
Ooh.
right? Maybe 2015. Just getting my toes wet in the woodworking. I think at this point I had a jigsaw, a router. I don't even think I had a circ saw. Maybe I did. But I had the wild inclination to buy a jointer. And so I bought a Porta-Cable 6-inch, or yeah, it was a 6-inch joiner. Whatever the little tabletop joiner is that you can get.
Delta.
Well, it was a Porta-Cable.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, same thing. Same, literally the same body. And I was planing some. Yeah, notice I said planing. I wasn't jointing anything because I thought that's how you would plane things. Because I wanted to smooth some boards out. And I had gloves on. And this is probably the only instance where I was happy that I had gloves on, especially with a joiner. I was passing the board over. I was doing passing an edge over. I don't know if I just wasn't looking when I was doing it, or I just didn't see that my pinky was close to the blade on the other side of the material. And that blade caught my glove. And it shredded the pinky of the glove completely off. And I had just the smallest nick on my pinky. And that has been the only time that I've ever been caught off guard by a power tool. It was the first time it happened, and it's been the only time it's happened because I knew if that had been my bare finger, or if that joiner had caught the glove and pulled it in, that would have been a terrible day for me. And that's all it took for me to never not have respect for a power tool ever again. Ever since then, well, there's been one other instance. It didn't happen to me. It was a story that Jason told me. But ever since that happened, if I'm using a power tool, I'm dead focused on it. I stop playing music. I just focus on that one thing, especially if it's a really dangerous pass that I'm doing. But yeah, that's mine. One of my kids is crying.
You want to go next, or you want me to go?
Go, Mr. Bent.
Okay. So mine is also a when I first started woodworking story,
Mm.
and also involves the jointer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think I'd been woodworking for a little while, and I didn't have a jointer or a planer, and I found this really good deal. So I bought a jointer and I bought a planer. And one night I was out in my shop.
Which plane did you get?
It was the rigid 6-inch floor standing.
Gotcha.
I was out in my shop and I had this small little square piece of plywood. Yeah. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
I had this small little square piece of plywood. I mean, this thing could have not been longer than 5 inches. It was maybe 3 inches wide. I think it was like 2 pieces laminated together. And I was trying to make like a small block, out of the two. And the one end was uneven. And so I was like, oh, I know what I can do. I can just run these over the jointer real quick. Oh boy, was that a mistake. So picture this, 5 or 6 inch long block, 3 by 3, 5 inch long block. And I'm standing it up on its end.
Oh, shnikey.
And it's plywood. And I'm running it across my jointer. So I did that. And the minute that those things hit the blade, it tipped the wood forward, the top of the wood, it tipped it forward and shot my hand forward. And my pinky basically landed right on the back side of the cutter heads, hit the cast iron. And I was like, well, I'll never be doing that again.
No, I know.
So
wake up call.
Again, and that's just that ignorance, I guess, when you get started and you're using a tool that you don't have the knowledge, and that you didn't take the time to learn like what to do and what not to do. That was a very close call for me, and that made me pucker up a little bit.
Oh yeah, it's got a pucker quotient to it.
Yeah. Yep. What about you?
It was a Sunday morning. And here's the weird thing. When I've ever had an accident, I always go, oh shit, I didn't think about that. I could bleed out right now. And how is somebody going to find me?
Yeah.
So one of my shops, right around Abraham Lincoln's house. Just kidding. Okay, so one Sunday morning, I'm working out of a storage unit, and I had a bay, right? But there's nobody around. I mean, nobody around here in Davie. Well, I was in Davie, Florida. I had my contractor saw. I had pulled it out the front of the bay, and when you're halfway ripping something in a table saw, and you go, "Oh shit, this is not going to go right."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I had this warped piece of oak I was ripping really thin, and I said, "Ah, shit, my push stick's over there." And it was warped. And I was on my Delta contractor saw, and I went, okay, as I'm pushing it through, no resistance, but then all of a sudden the warp came down and brought my index finger into the blade.
Oh.
Holy shit. And you know what the problem is? What's your reaction? Oh, shnikey, you grab your hand like this, right?
Yeah,
well, that
board.
Son of a bitch came right at me. Oh my God, it almost hit the monster. And it hit the fuck. I was pissed. I went like this, and thank God I turned ever so slightly, because the monster would have hit right. Oh, it hit him hard. So what happened is it hit my hip. holy shit. And then I went, oh, Nike. And I was like, that hurts. And I'm like bleeding and shit. And so what's the first thing I did? I grabbed the rag right over on the side, right? And that had a ton of mineral spirits in it. And I wrap it up and I'm like, oh.
It was an impregnated sock. That's what it was.
Holy shit, man. Did I pucker on that? Then all of a sudden I'm like standing there and I went in my shorts and I'm like, God damn, like I'm buckling, I drop them and I'm like standing there like this. I'm freaking naked. I'm like this and I'm looking down. I'm going like this. And I got this bump right there. And I was like, God damn, if that would have hit the monster, I would have added an inch or two, I guess, whatever. So,
monster.
So I wrap it up, I bring it home, and Marianne looks at it and she goes, you want to go to the doctor, you dumbass? And I went, I think the contusion I have on my hip is worse. I didn't go. I just wrapped it up. We put one of those butterfly bandages on it. So it was kind of, my index finger was kind of tapered, right? And it grew back. I was kind of pissed because that taper really let me pick my nose, really got up in there, that taper, but it grew back. So I was kind of pissed at that. But yeah, I tapered my index finger. I could still feel it. It didn't all grow back, but so that was one of the times, and it's always, you think about things, right? Afterwards, you're going, so what would have happened if I really cut my finger off? I'm by myself. I'm in a locked in storage area, so it's tough because I've always been kind of like working by myself all these years here and there. And I had a business partner at the cabinet shop and we always worked together. So that was cool. After that shop, that's when I had taken that shop and moved it in with Mikey, my business partner, into that 1,800 square foot shop. But yeah, I often think back at that. Then yeah, I got boy, all my scary stuff happened at that one shop. It was funny.
God, now I don't like talking about this stuff. Always like makes me like, ugh. But I feel like you need to talk about it every once in a while.
Well, no, absolutely. Jason, the one that always gives me the heebie-jeebies is when you were talking about the track saw, when that girl reached under the material as she was cutting. Like every time I use my track saw, I think about that story. And like I intentionally put my other hand behind my back when I cut. Yeah. Because of how like, oh my God, I can't even imagine doing that in a situation where you're trying to learn how to woodwork and you cut your hand like that. Oh my God, I just can't even think of that.
So what's the first, whenever you guys do this, you guys did it both on a jointer, right? And I did it with my table saw. What's the first thing you really do? You're all alone. What's the first thing you do? You look around to see if anybody's looking.
Yeah.
I was outside my.
Anybody see that, you dummy?
I was outside my driveway when I did mine. Out my neighborhood. I mean, I don't think anybody was around, but
yeah. There was one night at that shop. I had a loft that I built in there for storage, and I had a staircase that I built from the side. And the staircase kind of started at the front of the bay and walked up. And I was up there and I was grabbing something really bulky. And I tripped coming down the stairs backwards. And I went flying out the bay and landed on my back on the tar. And it was like 10, 11 at night. I was exhausted. And I woke up, I freaking looked around, said, what? Is anybody gonna hit me with a car or anything? I was in the middle of the freaking drive and I went, how long have I been out? Jeez. And oh my God, was I sore the next day. But that scared the hell out of me because I'm all by myself, and I was, every time I went up into that loft afterwards, up that staircase, I was wicked cautious.
Well, the scary part about this is like when something like that happens, your body immediately will go into shock. Like if you have a serious incident, like when I did it with the jointer, Um, there was another thing that contributed to it, which I'll talk about on my second one. But like you immediately that something like that might happen. Like you may cut your fingers off, and it's not the reaction like you look at it like, oh gosh, it's like your body will immediately start acting in a very different way, right? And everybody's going to react to different stressors differently. So when something like that happens, like there could be a very good chance that you have no idea what's going on. You could do all kinds of crazy stuff and not even remember it because your body's in shock, because your body's going to do that anytime it receives some sort of trauma. And the way that everybody reacts is going to be differently. So that's what's scary to me is it's like you have some catastrophic incident in the shop and here you are not in your right mind, and you do something else crazy or yeah, it's scary when you think about it. Ben, do you have a second one?
No, not that not anything that I've ever done. That was as far as I can remember, I think I may have had maybe one kickback when I had a table saw. But I typically don't stand behind the material. I always kind of stand off to the side. So if there is a kickback, it never would hit me. But I think any other scares were probably at the table saw. Whether there was a kickback or there was some tension in a board and it released as soon as it got cut and it binded the blade, or that's always really scary. I had the woodpeckers, the miter sled, Incra, what is it, 1000 or something like that. Really nice miter sled, and I wasn't paying attention and ended up cutting the edge of it off. And I think I did the same thing with my CMS. I think I may have like nicked the fence once, but other than that, no, I don't have any crazy close calls.
So some of the worst accidents I've ever heard of or seen is not by anybody just starting out. It's been by pros. And I have a friend down in Fort Lauderdale, and he came in with a bandaged hand, and I looked at him and I went, what happened? And he was probably one of the best trim carpenters I ever met in my life. He's unbelievable. He had been doing it for, I think, 30 years at that time. And he goes, I go, you weren't thinking, were you? He goes, nope. He ran his hand across a shaper. And he goes, I go, what were you thinking? He goes, about the next day's install.
Yeah.
And if I was going to have enough help. And he goes, I've done that process with doors thousands and thousands of times. He goes, I just was not in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's where you got to be so careful. So I know a guy who ran his hand across a dado blade. And then guess what? 6 months later, he did it again.
Oh my God, man.
And this guy built some of the most unbelievable built-in wall units I've ever seen in my life for all these mansions up in West Palm Beach. He had been in the business for 40 plus years. It'll right when you think, oh, it'll never happen to me because I've been doing this for so long. I don't know. It's good.
I think people get
attention.
People get too comfortable and it becomes such a normal thing, a normal routine for people. I mean, I've had this happen in my shop and I'm not like a super experienced woodworker. I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again. And you just kind of get in this rhythm and you start thinking about other things. You're like, oh, I'm just doing the same thing over. And that's when dumb stuff happens. And it's very, very easy to get that way. Like it really, really is. And I find that that's the most common when it's a repetitive thing. I'm running, 25, cutting boards or whatever through the router table, or, just a small example, cutting the same strip on a table saw 50 times. It just becomes like, okay, next. And then you start like trying to speed up the process and get cute with things. And I haven't had like a lot of like close calls, but I have had like dicey things happen when that kind of scenario has happened with me. I have a second one. I know you have a second one too, but I have a second one. And it kind of goes along with the first one. What I was mentioning is that there was something else involved. So my second incident is why I don't drink alcohol.
Mhm.
I gotta go. My dryer just caught on fire. So
Oh, shnikey.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So everybody, Ben has an incident at his house that he has to go take care of. So Ben will not be on the rest of the podcast. So me and Cedric are going to finish this one out. But what I was saying is, I used to drink when I first started woodworking. I would go out in my shop and I was drinking. This is back when I was drinking hard stuff, the IPAs. And
IPAs?
oh yeah, I would drink all the time in my shop. I was like, oh yeah, I'm a guy. I'm going to be out in my shop and I'm going to drink beer and I'm going to build furniture. And I used to do it a lot. And this incident happened after the jointer incident. Not too long after, to be honest with you. But when the thing with the joiner happened, I had been drinking. I never got drunk and woodworked, but I would be drinking beers. And this incident was me at the table saw. And I was making cuts and I was pushing boards. So I can't remember what I was building. I think I was building a table or a console or something. And I was ripping pieces and I got to like the third or fourth cut and I pushed the board through and I was listening to music and, again, drinking beer. And on one of the cuts, it was one of those scenarios where I was kind of just doing stuff, very, willy-nilly, we'll say. And sure enough, I pushed a board through after doing some other ones, feeling good. And when I went to go reach for the board, my pinky clipped the blade, like just enough.
Oh,
it
yeah.
didn't cut me. It was just enough that I felt it. And when that happened, I was, because I was being very unsafe, the way that I was doing it, and two, the fact that I was drinking alcohol while I was operating heavy tools.
You let down your guard.
Oh yeah, it's just you don't pay attention to everything, right? I wasn't as focused, so I reached across and bing, sure enough, hit it, and I turned off the table saw and I stopped, and that was the last time that I would work with power tools while drinking alcohol. Now, with that being said, to be fair, if I'm out in the shop sanding, like if I know tonight I'm just going to be sanding stuff, sure, I'll hang out in the shop and have beer. If I'm hanging out with my buddies, we're in the shop, maybe we're doing one thing or another, not actually building anything, not using any large power tools, but, messing with hand tools or something like that, right? Like at your place, hanging around the assembly table, BS and talking about tools. I'll do that.
Me
but
too.
You will not see me operate a joiner planer, a drill press, even a bandsaw, a router table, a table saw. If I have drank anything, that stuff will absolutely wait. It's definitely not worth it. Track saw, I mean, nothing with a blade.
Nope.
Period.
I will not work any power tools with any alcohol. I cannot do it. I will not do it. When Mikey and I had the shop, we had a rule: no weed and no beer in that shop. And it was funny because we were in this really cool area down in unincorporated Broward County, and that must have been it was all contractors, right? And our shop, and then there was like 3 or 4 cabinet shops right in that parking area, common area. And Thanksgiving was a killer day because it was right before it was balls to the wall before Christmas. Everybody wanted everything for Christmas, and everything was done. Everybody wanted everything for Thanksgiving. But the day before Thanksgiving, it was one hell of a party in the parking lot, man. And I'll never forget the day. It was 12 noon, right before the day before. And Mikey and I had to get stuff knocked out, but we knew noon was coming. and they would walk. A couple of guys were walking in at 8 o'clock in the morning with bottles of Crown, going, "Let's party!" And I'm like, "Whoa, time out! No drinking in this shop, dude. You can stand outside and watch us finish this up, but there is no alcohol in here." And that was, it wasn't that I was a hard ass. It's just, a rule's a rule. And you got to live by them. And they appreciated it, but they set up the deep fryer for turkey in front of us. I'm like, "Come on, guys, get out here." So this, not that we rushed it. I think we finished up about 10:30. Then the party was on. We were outside partying. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. When I was doing I think we talked about this, when I was doing all my like shop renovation stuff, getting the shop set up, and in the backdrop of a lot of the scenes, you'd see beer and stuff. And, I caught some flack for that from some people. I know you and I had discussed it at one point, but like for me, I can see why that might look bad. Same thing with the flip-flops in the shop, right?
Yeah, whatever.
Like I'm wearing flip-flops right now. Why? Because I'm recording a podcast in my shop.
Yep.
But if I'm out here, building a table or a cabinet or whatever, I'm not going to do it. Not that I think, because I don't wear steel-toed shoes as it is for the most part. Every once in a while I do. But, if I was to drop something on my foot, my, tennis shoe is not going to stop that much more than my flip-flops would. But even with that being said, I still don't wear them while I'm doing stuff like that. But when I'm out like installing the insulation or hanging my lights or putting up my ductwork or, like painting my walls, and getting the crap for it. But it makes you think like, other people can be watching what I'm doing and go and think that that's normal. But at the same time, it's like, this is my shop. This is my space. I want to be comfortable doing what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And that's why I always tell people, like, do what you're most comfortable with. I think we talked about that a few podcasts ago, and using push sticks as an example. Like in most scenarios, I feel way more unsafe using push sticks than I do controlling it with my hands. And then there's other scenarios where I won't do it without a push stick or a push block or something like that.
Yep.
But there's other people out there that will only use them, and they will, use a push stick on a push stick. It doesn't always mean it's going to be the safest thing. So it is weird when when you have a lifestyle where, like, even you doing your videos and stuff, like if somebody sees a beer in the background and you're talking about whatever, maybe they're like, oh, they make this assumption that you're running around your shop drinking booze all the time while you build furniture and use power tools, or, oh, you had flip-flops on that, when you were putting in your insulation on your garage door. That's so unsafe. Like,
whatever.
It's not what I always do, right? It's like sometimes, I don't know. It's just it's a weird dynamic. What was your second one that you said you had?
Oh God, I get well, I kind of said the second one, falling off out of the loft on my back. But man, I get so many. Oh boy. Hey, here's one for you. How do you have you ever done a drop cut on I do them on I used to do them all the time on a table saw, a drop cut. But you ever done a drop on and set up a point, like a fulcrum point on a router table? And
I've done them on a router table, yeah.
To do a mortise, and you go from point to point. If you're not, you ever do that and all of a sudden the board's not in your hand?
I have not. No.
Because it's a pinned part of that. One of those shoulders is pinned against the fence. And if you are not holding on and controlling that, and there's a lot of videos, there's been a lot of television shows where they do drops on router bits for mortises. That, I believe, is wicked dangerous. And I was doing it because I was watching a television program one time, and I went, okay, I want to do this mortise and this board for a door. And next thing I know, it's gone. It's not in my hand, and it's spun out somewhere. That thing could have clipped me, but I was like, whoo. And when, that's one of those tools that you got to be wicked cautious. You got to be on and in the moment every time you use it as a router. But that was my router spooky one.
I know exactly what you're talking about with because when you do the drop, right, you want to drop it before wherever your lines are so you can work to the
Yep.
line both ways, right? So what I found is when I've done that, the minute you put it down and you start pulling it towards you
Woohoo!
to get to that far line, that's when it really does get dicey. And I know what you're saying, because like it feels like it wants to grab and shoot it away.
Oh yeah.
But I've never had anything like that happen. I've done quite a few just using like a spiral upcut bit or downcut bit,
Yep.
whatever, to do exactly that. And I've been lucky, never to have any issues. But the router table is one of those router tables specifically. The router, yes, I think trim routers are probably, I honestly believe trim routers are one of the most dangerous, just because they're so small and people assume that they're harmless. They're just as dangerous as every other tool.
Absolutely.
If not more, because you think of it that way, that's what causes problems. But the router table is always, it's scary anytime I'm doing like pattern cutting, right?
Yep.
And you're using one of those big, compression bits. Like I have that huge one from Bits and Bits. It's just a freaking monster.
Yeah.
And, when you're initially getting that board on there, getting it on in the right spot so it doesn't catch and flick it back at you. I've had that happen to me multiple times. That's scary. Typically, if I'm in a scenario where I think that might happen, my hands are way far away from it. And in those cases, a lot of times I am using pads. But yeah, that's a scary tool. I mean, all tools are scary. I've had close calls with a bandsaw. I've had close calls, with boards binding at a table saw. I've had kickbacks on the miter saw. I've had a kickback on a track saw, the TS75. But that was my own fault because I didn't have quite enough track.
Yep.
I was plunging down with the 75 on the end, and it would catch and it would shoot it back. It happened like 3 or 4 times, or 3 times, I think, until I finally got deep enough through that I could make the cut. But I'm used to the TS55 where I don't have that issue. But that TS75, especially with a smaller amount of teeth too, it did it real quick, really fast.
We call that we call that, because what happens is that blade hits that front of that board and it goes up and it actually will scratch a guide rail. I call that the rite of passage, baby.
Yeah.
Because it's happened to everybody. And that's when every time I teach how to rip hardwood, or any wood, I'll say, hey, get used to this even on plywood, 55 or 75. Start the blade before. Make sure that track is pulled back, and make sure you have enough track, and don't cycle it on, but just plunge it to make sure that that blade is going to go down in position at full speed before and then what happens is people do that in plywood, and because of the orientation of the grain going in the directions, it's no problem. It's engineered. But boy, when you put that down on hardwood and it hits that grain, it's going to kick. It's physics. I tell everybody. So I always say, hey, start the blade before the board.
Yeah. I ever since that happened, I always try to make it an effort with, even no matter what I'm cutting, with the TS55, or in this case, the TSC, to get it down all the way before, just because I'm like, I've never had the issue with the TS55 ever. But I don't want to have it again. For sure. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable.
I always, how I was just talking about that drop cut on a router table. There's a lot of times I'm doing mortises with the domino and thinking, this has got to be the daggone safest tool out there. To do mortises the way that domino, whether 500 or 700 does that. Jeez, it's so neat. I just get a kick out of it because there's all kinds of ways of mortising, but boy, that is just a safe way of doing it. The bit's really never
Yeah.
exposed to you, and there's no kick to it.
I think the biggest danger with a domino is not paying attention to the settings and plunging through a piece and having your hand on the backside.
Yes, I totally agree.
That is the biggest danger. Other than that, I don't see a danger.
I know a guy who did the exact same thing with the biscuit cutter. His hand was on the back, and he was doing it on a bevel, and it went right through and curved his hand. Yeah,
that's the only. I've never had it happen to me, but I actually have plunged through, usually on a bevel, when you're trying to like figure out that sweet spot on depth and everything.
Yep.
But my hand has never been behind it. On a bevel, it's a little bit more challenging to have your hand behind it. So luckily it wasn't there. But plunging into a regular board, I've never had it. But I've talked to some people who have. They're like, yeah, I plunge this thing right into my finger. It's like, oh God.
Yeah. I just right before the podcast, I answered a domino question. And it was like, I looked at it, I went, he asked me about a butt joint and blah, blah, blah on a certain thickness of plywood. And I went, that is like the easiest thing to do. And I answered the question, 5x30, 15 millimeter plunge. And I was just like, I guess he must have been brand new to it. Cause I mean, it was basically an 18 millimeter butt joint with 18 millimeter. Doesn't matter if it's MDF or plywood, but I was like, wow, man, I guess people just don't know. And he must be new with the domino. That's all I could think of.
Yeah. It's really mind blowing sometimes when you just see how, oh man, you gotta be kidding me. There's people at my door right now. It's 8 o'clock at night. And there's 2 guys at my door.
What are they doing?
They're knocking on the door. Did they hear? This is awkward.
Well.
Oh, it's sales guys. They just put something.
Yeah, we've had a couple different people from roofing companies recently knocking at the door.
Sorry, that totally sidetracked me.
No worries, dude.
Yeah, you gotta be worried every once in a while. Like, who comes to the house to try to sell you something at 8 o'clock at night? Like, what? It's dark outside.
I know, huh? That's bizarre. Anyway,
yeah, that's probably, now that my dogs are barking and going crazy, it's probably time for me to go inside and lay down with Leo.
Yep.
Try to get him to bed. I'm sure Max is probably pretty happy now. But I had a really good.
Has he been sleeping good, Max?
Yeah. I mean, so. He's good for the most part. Leo just keeps getting up in the middle of the night, like coming into our bed every night. So every morning when I wake up, it's me, Max, Leo, and my wife, and that's a habit we need to stop. But at the same time, I kind of like waking up in the morning and seeing Leo right there. So
yeah.
Anyway,
those are the times that you're gonna remember, because those are the good memories.
Yeah. But I'm gonna have to get going there, buddy.
Okay.
Well, thank you everybody for listening.
You.
We're sorry Ben had to go. He had a issue in his house, and he has his kids there, so he had to go take care of that. But
well, I've been looking at the screen and I don't see the house on fire, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Don't see any smoke coming underneath the door. All right, no get Ben tonight because I had a really good one and I wanted Ben to listen to it. So
okay,
I'm gonna have to save it for next week.
Okay, everybody. Thank you.
All right, everyone.
Have a good one.